All right, come on in, everybody. Come on in. Let's just see here. 5. We had 33. Of course, the numbers go down a little bit, when I haven't been. Ooh, got an email. All right, gotta deal with that after. Let's see. What does this say? Send to the business office. Follow up with the FTC. I was wondering. I kept sending this email for funding for going to conferences and stuff with the college I work with, and I was wondering why I didn't hear back. I was getting a bit nervous. I was thinking about I was sleeping last night, and I get an email back. This person no longer works at the college. Okay, gotta contact the business office. Alrighty, how many people we got in now? I want to send this while you're piling in. I want to thank again our usual wonderful contributor and supporter. Dave donates $10. Thank you, Dave. It's good to see you. Let me just see. Business office. Let's get some people in. Come on, go get your friends. All right, what are we going? What are we going to talk about today? Let me close this one down. 21. Can you ask a theological question? Of course. Shoot. Go ahead. Ask your theological question. And anybody else have any questions to go over too? That is so weird. I don't get this. What do you think, guys? What do you think? All right, let's... Of course we reject Muhammad as a prophet. He wasn't a prophet. He was a charlatan. And demonically inspired. As scripture says, remember, John the Baptist is the last prophet. There's plenty of evidence in scripture for that. There are no further prophets. In fact, scripture warns, if you receive another gospel, even if it comes down from an angel from heaven, you're to reject it. So, yes, he is demonically inspired false prophet, and among other things that we and it's just it's a dumb religion. I can't. I was trying to think, what's a lower IQ religion? Islam or Rastafarianism? We should have a vote, like dumbest low IQ religions. It's also just a hodgepodge of different various Christian heresies too. So let's see. Not Strong donates $10. Father, where do I buy good Orthodox Christian children's books. Hobby Lobbies were lacking. Doesn't Patristic Nectar and Legacy, a lot of those Orthodox websites and publishing, they should be able to. I think they send it. They sell it. Let's see. Question: do we understand God the Father as the essence of God, the head of God? God, I did both. Clarification. Monarchical Trinity. Dr. Bo Branson has really good stuff on that, but the Father is the principle of the essence of God, by which each person is given that through the Father. He is the cause. He's the sole cause of the essence and divinity of each person of the. So, yeah, he's the most properly the essence. Not that's not to imply that the Son of the Spirit are less divine in terms of the essence or anything like that, but he is the source. So first and foremost, we call God the Father, and that he is the cause, eternal cause, the Son's beginning and receiving the essence of God. And so in that sense, obviously the Father is the head of the Godhead. He's the Monarchia. And then the procession of the Holy Spirit as well. Good. Speaking of St. John the Baptist, what was the theology of baptism before Christ? To obviously prepare the way. Obviously, that's. Let's see if we have any other super chats. All right. Let me send out this email real quick because it's driving me crazy. And you guys start putting in your questions and we'll take those up. From November. Which I can't talk today. Type. Well, we're having some unfortunate weather here. It's warmed up. We didn't have much of a winter here. Oh man, they predicted, oh, you're gonna get it late and it's gonna be so cold and lots of snow. Like 57 degrees yesterday. I'm so upset. Like all the snow's melting. I need it for skiing. I need it cold and lots of snow. So that's kind of a bummer. It's not like there's anything in the future that's the temperature is going to drop to or any storms in that. So I'm kind of bummed by that. We had a wonderful church ski trip with our local church group. Some of the people from Butte, some of the people from Helena here. But half the people either got sick or they had some injuries and stuff like that, so they weren't able to show up. So I was thinking, I'm like, we'll do another one this Friday. only to get this super warm weather coming in and melting everything. So, doesn't make me super happy to find that stuff out. All right, let's see. Let me look. Yeah, I had read. I'm not too educated on the mikvah. I do know that the ancient Hebrews. I had watched a documentary too about they had kind of. So again, remember the Hebrews. Were not a monolithic group. Too, there were different kind of groups within them, but some of them really had an emphasis on the ritual purification and as kind of a precursor to baptism. So I don't know too much about that. Steve the Turd donates $10. Thank you. Bless you, Father. Thanks for what you do. I've read The Law of God by Cicero. Is there anything else I should cover? I've just been made a catechumen. Congratulations. The Orthodox dogmatic theology and the continuing education and catechesis inquired class that I go through that is a great, and that covers 3 different groups. And inquires, so not yet Orthodox, catechumens, and then those who are Orthodox and need to continue their education. So I'd recommend that. We are pausing on that course until after Lent because Wednesday nights in Holy Trinity in Butte, we have pre-sanctified, and then Friday nights here in Helena at Holy Ascension, we have pre-sanctified. So obviously we put that before the catechesis. Let me see. Just got back from Houston, where I delivered my paper, and got to see many of the Orthodox philosophers, scholars, priests, bishops. That was wonderful, and paper went really, really well. It was said it was the best one that I've written thus far, and no objections. I'm sure like somebody in the future will come up with some objection. Yeah, Saint Demetrius Stanley is really great. Yeah, Rastafarianism it's a weird. So it merges. I don't think it has its origin in Ethiopia. It emerges in Jamaica, but it makes claims. It has influences, obviously, with Ethiopian Orthodoxy, and then it just becomes itself a hodgepodge of weird kind of stuff, and yeah, it's pretty dumb. And I don't know if they're a sect from like. I think they were completely a separate group. They just appealed to and hat tipped, but I don't think they were ever part. I don't think Rastafarians were ever part of Ethiopian Orthodox in any sense. It's just, oh well, maybe our genetic lineage goes back to Africa. We'll pick Ethiopia, and we'll take elements from Ethiopian Orthodoxy, and then think that Emperor Haile Selassie was the return of Christ. So Christ kind of has come in different reincarnations of, and Numenon. How does free will escape the determined random dichotomy? I don't get it. Oh. So my question would be, well, who's, what do you mean escape? I mean, it's just a posit, an unjustified assertion that something's either determined or random. That's what I'd be like. Who said that? Who told you? One of the problems is lack of understanding of what causation. And I could go through. I've done a lecture. In fact, we'll be doing this tomorrow, going over Aristotle's causes and stuff like that. I could pull it up actually for you. Let's see. But that's just another unjustified, stupid assertion that all causations, types of causes, and the way they refer to the term, is deterministic. So you don't let people get away with just making dumb, unjustified assertions. Is what. Yeah, Slowboy whiteboard, just like they're just like the Black Hebrew Israelites claim to be Jewish. So, but there is no actual historical link with them. Good questions. Let's see if we have any other super chats. Jat Tuan donates $5. Thank you. Have you ever heard of the claim that Jesus returned in AD 66? The rapture happened in Christianity when the destruction of the temple. It was a small sect, TikTok sect, that is spreading this. So one of the problems with this is it's esoteric. So again, in terms of epistemically verifying something, it makes it impossible. This is one of the things that we talk about, why the Orthodox faith is true, is because it gives us an objective and accessible way of verifying various theological claims, historical claims, right? Because these things weren't actually hidden, and only a few people. Now we know it took 1,800 years to find this secret, right? It says in Scripture, the faith once delivered to all, to the saint. Let me get I'm butchering it right here. The faith once delivered to the saints. The faith delivered. Not part of the faith, the whole faith, once for all. Not hidden away and we won't know. And so one of the things too is that this is preserved historically in the writings of the fathers and can be actually verified in history through the writings of fathers. So it's publicly accessible. And so one of the problems is that, again, like we see all the time when people come to debates, anybody can make up a story. Oh, I made up a story that he came back in 66 AD, blah, blah, blah. First of all, it's just contrary to Orthodox doctrine. We know that Christ's second return, and through the writing of the fathers as well, is going to be the end of time. So, again, there's no just because you can make up a story, the story contradicts history, contradicts the fathers, and contradicts the faith. Not only is there no justification for it, everything proves it wrong. So that's what. Yeah, noumena. So I reject that all causation is deterministic. So that's just a dumb modern assertion. Not all causes are determine you. So I can freely choose reasons. Like I have multiple reasons to do something. And so the reason, if you say, well, why did you go to the store? Because I wanted this. Notice that those reasons don't actually determine me. It's vice versa. My mind and will can choose the various reasons to do something. So that's one of the problems too, is that they have an incorrect kind of understanding, like a reductive understanding of causation. They simply reduce it to all causes are deterministic. And so, therefore, I don't have to choose between, well, you either have a reason or it's random. Yeah, I always have reasons to do stuff, but not all reasons or causes are determine me. So I freely choose the reasons that I choose to do various things. So that's how you get out of. All right, let's go. Somebody else had some questions. Jonathan Kelly, given donates $20. Thank you so much. Given Montanica's topic of therapia, how is the management of our thoughts different in Orthodox from magic? How do you know if you are aligning your thoughts to God's will? Well, first of all, magic is about will. It's not about the good. It's not about virtue. It's a libido dominandi. It's power and manipulation. So, obviously, that's your thoughts and Orthodox spiritual warfare. The management of them is not because I want things, I want to be God, and I want things in the world, and I'm going to manipulate people and do incantations and stuff like that so that I have pure will. Okay, we manage things and we do things to acquire the spiritual virtues. So in magic, there is no attempt to become holy. The reason why you do stuff is all self-serving. So it's not kenotic. There's no going outside of thyself and denying thyself. Deny thyself and take up thy cross. That's how we manage our thoughts, right? Magic is the opposite. Do serve thyself. Thy will be done. How do you know if you're aligning your thoughts to the will of God? Well, you have a priest, a confessor. Sometimes the confessor may be a spiritual father. And you do the prescriptions of Orthodox. You start with the basics, right? You do your prayer rules. You read the scriptures. And you go to confession. You take the sacraments. You live a life. And then you begin to, again, it's really easy that there's some simple formulae to identify, is it from God or is it from the devil? Is it self-serving? Is it thy will be done? It's from the devil. Okay? Is it fear? It's from the devil. Is it distraction? It's from the devil. Okay? Is it worry, anxiety, what if this? It's from the devil. Okay? So there's some kind of easy things to kind of say, well, those thoughts obviously are not of God. And again, most of your thoughts are probably demonic. That's the other thing. You've been preliced, so you may think they're holy. That's another thing. But you take these to your spiritual, you're going inward and you're being introspective and critical of your thoughts. Don't trust them. But I think that as you learn the foundations of the faith and you live it, you know exactly, as far if you mean by thoughts in terms of judgments of what's correct theology and stuff like that, you learn those things in a practical way, step by step, right? While reading, while doing it all. That's how you actually know. But for the most part, as far as like daily thought, they're probably not of God. That's all right. Let's see. I'm gonna read some more super chats. Ooh, yeah, Norwegian donates 100 Norwegian coin. Also, can you elaborate a bit on Orthodox mariology? I especially don't understand her title, Queen of Heaven, means. How she is a mother to us, and in what way does she serve us? Yeah, I guess I don't really get. She is not the great exception, so we don't believe in Immaculate Conception. She's the great example. And she said yes to God in every way. And so, again, if she's the great example, not the great exception, I mean, if we're going to rule, the saints are ruling in heaven, then think about what is the best of them. She's the queen, right? She's not divine. Again, she's not the great exception, but the great example of. And so if you look at some of the icons, you'll see the apostles, they're ruling in heaven. The saints are ruling in heaven. There's a whole hierarchy of. So hell, as St. John Chronicle says, is a democracy. Heaven is a monarchy, a hierarchy. Christ is king, and his mother is the queen of heaven, right? Because if saints can rule in the kingdom of heaven, if there's hierarchy, she's the very best of us. It also says in Scripture too that I'm trying to remember. I just blanked on the. The prayers of a righteous man availeth much. So she's the best example of us. Again, and it's not juridical. It's not like, well, you did all these things, so-and-so saint. So now I'm going to give you this power. The fact of the matter, you see the halos around the saints is their participation in God, the nature of God in terms of his energies. So it's not a power that they're owed or given or granted. It's a participation in the life of, they become so much like God that they rule with God. Their prayers availeth much. And because we are Trinitarian, our salvation and our participation in God is always communal. It's never a one-to-one relationship. And so the intercession of the saints is Trinitarian. That's why we, of course, and it's not an either or. It's not like, well, do I ask this person to help me and intercede for me, or do I just go to Christ? It's both and. But if you do an either or, guess what? You're not a Trinitarian. Because Trinitarian is always communal. And therefore, we need the intercessions, and we do this of the saints, especially Saint Mary. And she really does, if you see the way that she's displayed in the Gospels, too. She's a mother to the apostles. Christ says to John, behold your mother. He becomes adopted. She actually, although and the apostles administratively, right, were the bishops, they had a mother. They had a mother through virtue, right? So it's really important. So this doesn't end because she dies and is now in the kingdom. And so we must really think of it that way too. And serve her. The same way that you serve anybody, I guess. Like, how do you serve your neighbor, and how do you, right? It seems weird to, we serve our brothers and sisters by doing the will of God. But not like, well, that necessarily like, do you have to give something to her or give something to you? Like, no, the service is a service to God. It's interesting, if you remember the gospel on Sunday, I'm going to go back and I can't. Okay, Monday, let's do Sunday. Matthew 25, that the king will say unto them on his right hand, come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you. So it's a kingdom with rulers, right? So that you, right there. Now those who rule are brought on the right. Why? Because he was hungry, and you gave him meat, was thirsty, and you gave him drink, was a stranger, and took him in, naked, and clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous shall answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed thee, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you as a stranger and took thee in, or naked and clothed thee, or when saw that thee were sick, or in prison came to thee? And the king shall answer and say to them, verily I say to you, inasmuch as you've done it to the least of these, you've done it for me. So how do we serve her? Inasmuch as you serve the least of is hell. And you serve your brother that way, you serve God. You serve the Theotokos, the mother of God, and all the saints. Let's see, moving on. Good questions. Omar asked, the laws of logic aren't universal and can vary from law to law. Who says that, by the way? I've never heard that. First of all, laws are all, it's implicit in the definition of law to be universal. So, for example, if there's a red light, you're supposed to stop. because it's the law. What does that mean? It's universal. It's not like, well, I don't have to do it because I'm a deacon, obviously. So I haven't even heard anybody say that laws of logic aren't universal. Probably because laws are universal. So if somebody says a law is not universal, now of course we have that can be relative to certain kind of like states or communities or something like that. Like it's not like certain laws of the U.S. because their laws are universal and binding on all people of the world. But the very nature of law is that it is universal. That's what it means. So maybe somebody says logic isn't universal, but I've never heard anybody say that the laws of logic aren't universal. So hopefully that answers that question. And it's part of what your question is like nominalism doesn't believe in universals. So uh, there's what they call tokens and types and stuff like that. So I mean, imagine in terms of philosophy of language and stuff like that, it gets kind of complicated. Um, that a nominalist would say that there's kind of types in terms of names that ground those, but it probably means if you got into like more difficult philosophy or like more advanced philosophers, they'd probably ask you what you mean by universal, because nominalists do believe in universals. They just believe that they're types as names, but there's not any kind of ontological status either as a real kind of thing in the mind, which means something beyond just a name, but like an actual immaterial, almost like entity and substance in the mind called universal. That's Aristotelian conceptualism, or realism like Plato, that there's an ontological status of universals beyond space and time, beyond the mind and stuff like that. So I don't even know what that means. Like again, if somebody brings that up, I don't know who's asking that, what their theory is. It's going to depend. So yeah, you'd have to clarify that from before I can answer. But I've never really heard anybody say laws aren't universal. I mean, maybe there's a tard out there or something like that, but like, I wouldn't even talk. If somebody's that low IQ and they don't even know what a law is, then I probably wouldn't even talk to. Danny Lamone, what's wrong with tritheism if they all share the same substance that makes them deity? Well, it's going to be autotheos. It's also going to be their confusion of nature and person. It's going to be that they're three separate beings. So the idea is, again, you don't want three separate entity. You want, as far as an entity, one God, right? So what's wrong with tritheism is it's polytheistic. Like it goes against the revelation. We're not polytheist. We believe in one God. and three persons. So that's the easiest thing to. And it's not true. That's the easiest way. What's wrong with trying to? How about it's not true? Okay, moving on. Yeah, think about if we don't have an archetypal kind of mother, right? So all of this stuff is Trinitarian. Once you start tearing away these words or not using these words, you're not a Trinitarian. Iconography is the same way. You deny iconography is essentially Trinitarian. Everything in our theology is Trinitarian. So if you minus any one of those things out, right, stuff that doesn't seem like it's explicitly Trinitarian, it makes you anti-Trinitarian. So we're a family here, and the church the church militant, and the church also triumphant. If we're individualistic here, we're not Trinitarian. If we're individualistic there, we're not Trinitarian. If we don't have a family here, we're not Trinitarian. If we don't have a family there, we're not Trinitarian. If we don't have a mother, right, and the terms organically and biologically here, you can't be. It's in our nature to biologically have a mother, but also spiritually and theologically, if we don't have an archetype, we're not Trinitarians. It's not. So that's why we have to keep those concepts and those words. Doesn't the Orthodox position logically follow deterministic? Why? That doesn't make any sense. Why would Orthodoxy have to follow a man-made, unjustified philosophy of deterministic compatibilism? We're not determinists. We do not believe that God we don't believe in occasionalism. So God does not determine you. His knowledge doesn't determine you. The universe is not deterministic. So that's about as far away from orthodoxy as you can get. We believe in free will. We believe, notice, when it says predestined, it doesn't say predetermined. It means that God exists, and that's an important thing. God knows your destiny while you have free will. Okay? Because he's not bound in time. He's an ever-present now, as St. Augustine says. So he knows your destiny, but he doesn't determine you. There's a specific reason why Scripture doesn't use you are predetermined. He knows because he's given you the power to allow him to know. Isn't that interesting? He's there with you. You're in really a kind of mental construction of past, present, and future, right? Those are mental categories that, past and future don't actually exist. They're just now, but the way that you experience your now is a constructed mental category of chronology. That doesn't exist for God. God's an ever fullness of now. So, of course, he knows what you're going to do, because he's there with you at the moment. So if I'm looking at, so that's why his knowledge, what you would call foreknowledge from your perspective, it doesn't determine you any more than me watching you do something right now, and me knowing that determines you. I have knowledge of it, therefore you have to do it, you're determined. So it's a total secular, man-made, ridiculous system, determinism and deterministic compatibilism. So no, we do not believe in that. Okay, Zorch sends $5. Through the Orthodox lens, is there any basis for ordered love, ordo amoris? Essentially, that's the Latin, by the way. Essentially, prizes of love based on canon proximity. Absolutely. This is really strange for. So, if you look at the liberal, liberals have a disorder amoris that they put the prioritization of those furthest out to the detriment of those who are closest to them. And therefore it's an evil. Anytime that you disorder God's order and creation in terms of virtues and prioritization, it's an evil, it's a sin. So this has come up. You see that the Pope and there's Roman Catholic bishops. Notice everybody. There's no nuance. It's totally. First of all, it's totally kind of Rousseauian and Marxist kind of lenses that they. Well, everybody is my neighbor. I have to love everybody. Well, wait a minute. But what does that look like in the details? That's the problem. So, the liberal has got everything backwards. Okay. Now, imagine, and I did a conference, remember, First Things, about this. Imagine, first things first should be my wife. Now, imagine if I put my career, my job, before my wife. Well, I'm doing good for the world, you see. But it's out of order. It's neglecting my wife and hurting my wife. So, there has to be a prioritization of love. God first, my wife, right? My immediately family, my neighbors, or I'd say my church, my local church community, then the church, larger, geographically located, my community, my state, and my nation, my people. The liberal has it all backwards. The furthest person out, and there was a psychological study that one of the things they noticed between conservatives and liberals was that conservatives tend to prioritize love with those closest and nearest to them, and liberals the opposite, which is weird. So we're supposed to, somebody comes to your door and you don't know them, they look sketchy, blah blah blah, they're hungry and need a place to stay, and you're like, sorry sweetheart, you have to actually leave because we don't have enough room for or I'm gonna take away the things from my wife so that I can feed and clothe a dodgy stranger who I don't know. So there's nothing wrong with feeding the poor and the stranger, but again, are you taking away from, just like there's nothing wrong with me teaching with college, but what if I put so much time that it actually took away from the love of my wife? Then it's wrong. And it ignores, too, it isn't as if the you know, all these people are just, they're just, hold on a second, this went down. Oh, they're just people seeking a better life. It's weaponized migration. I mean, these people all ignore that there are actual plans to destroy your community and society by bringing in people. So it's totally insane to me that it's like, oh, you're not a Christian unless you have open borders and deprive your family in your community of. Think about it, you're paying for this. Some people can't even afford to live, right? Oh, but we got to take care of the outsider first to the detriment of our community. It's totally Luciferian. Then they put it in what? They cloak it in moral piety. The liberals famous for this. They weaponize morality. Oh, you're not Christian if you you see, this is the loving thing to do. So you can identify liberal and leftist tactics, and I think the two are different. Obviously, liberals and versus leftists, but they do have some similarities and crossovers and influences. But what I would say is, words are purposely vague and ambiguous. Oh, you're supposed to love. The details are ignored. Where, how, when. They weaponize morality, right? Oh, I'm being Christian. You see, you hate. This is love, hate, right? All of this. And so we have a first things first. I gave a whole, what was 2 years ago, with the help of Dr. Phil Mamalakis in some of his papers that he had presented, what first things first actually looks like. Your wife, right? God, the church, your family, right? All the other things are second and thirds. And if you prioritize the bottom stuff, and that could be your career, it could be the stranger, the outsider, then you're sinning. Like, it's, the other thing too is what's implicit in all of this is a kind of demonic multiculturalism, a collegialism, as I call it. That you can't actually take pride in your ethnos, your people. Like, that's a sin, you see. So it's it's demonic because the demonic blurs all boundaries and distinctions. Just like magic, right? To blur the Hermeticism, to blur the distinctions between male and female peoples, those that your family and those that are your community, it all gets blurred, right? The boundaries. So again, there's nothing wrong with taking pride in your ethnos and your people. Just don't make it a first, second, or third thing, like it's down on the list, right? So there is a prioritization. And so that's the order of love in terms of orthodoxy. Everything in its right place, but you have to have boundaries. And those boundaries include nations, literal boundaries. So all of this, comes out of the French Revolution, post-Enlightenment, Rousseau, then Marx, and stuff like this. And it's satanic. It's not Christian whatsoever. And those are the lenses they use to interpret all of. Okay. Pope Biscuit, quick question. Donors $5, thank you. Is the church teaching that Theotokos received a theophany and then chose to remain until her opposed? I think she always remains sinless. Sinless in the sense of will and actions. Okay. Obviously, as far as the ontology of her as a human person, she was missing the mark because she inherited sin and death. And sin did my mother conceive me. But what she chose, even from her childhood, the tradition holds that she never went against. She never made any actions of the will that went against God. Jared, you should just karate chop them in the neck, your Calvinist friends, and say, God determined me to. I mean, what a retarded religion. And you know what? Let me just put it to you. Calvinists are so bad that not even the other Protestant sects can stand them. Like, I mean, they're just, talk about like an antichrist religion. They embody cold-hearted, because they're determined, right? They're determined to be jerks. And every other Protestant Christian sect, realize, like, why would anybody? That's what you can be. You can become. You can become a total jerk, and you know what? So, by the way, it's totally easy to refute Calvinism. So, Calvin actually said that even the elect can be given to a reprobate mind. Okay? I mean, they can err and be determined to err in that way. Well, if that's true, so if Calvin was one of the elect and got the secret theology that the church had never held for, 1600 years, right? Because he was what? He was regenerated and elect. And so now he gets the true gospel, okay? That doesn't match anything in history. But it's self-defeating even on the Calvinists, because even the elect can be given over to a reprobate mind, according to Calvin. So that means his whole theory of Calvinism could actually be false. So it's self-defeating. It's a stupid... And if something's determined, you can't have knowledge. That's another defeater. So, in a deterministic universe, theologically, nothing's true or false. They're just events. They're just effects. There's not any one event that's more true than others. So, non-Calvinism, non-Christianity is neither false nor true. It's just an event. So that's self-defeating. Number 3, of course you couldn't have knowledge, right? Because you could have If I did brain surgery on you, I'm the sovereign surgeon, and I poke you and make you think 2 + 2 is 4, right? I cause you to do that. Then do you have knowledge? No, nobody in their right mind would actually say that. Why? Because even if you could get to true versus false beliefs, a true belief, holding a true belief is not enough for knowledge, but for the right reasons. And right, a true belief for the right reasons. And obviously, being determined to have a true belief is no different than like getting it coincidentally. Because there's no agency in there. There's no ability to actually err. Furthermore, you can equally be caused to have a false belief thinking that it's true and that it's knowledge. So you're never in a position to actually say whether something is knowledge or not knowledge, because all of that's determined too. It's the stupidest system in the world. It's totally self-defeating. What's up with Father being so dichotomies? I don't get it. Yeah, exactly. I'm not a Christian, but Jesus would want you to have open borders and have your family raped, stabbed, and killed, and fentanyl brought into your country, and your whole society collapsed. Like, these people are demonic. Like, I don't get it. Look what's going on in Europe. That's what you'll get. And if you speak out on it and be like, I'm actually scared for my family's getting stabbed by sub-Saharan African Muslims, and oh, you'll get arrested. Now you're thrown in jail. Okay, let's see. Let me go look at some more super chats. Solid Snake donates $1. What would your response be to someone claiming that prayer fast is archaic? I'd probably be like, who are you to say what is and what isn't archaic? So you just allow people to say whatever they want? Great, I say it's not. How about that? You can't let people get away with saying stuff, unjustified stuff. Also, they're outside. People who say that are outside of the faith, the Orthodox faith. And if you do not accept the Orthodox faith in toto, kataholos, you have no justification for any knowledge claims whatsoever. So I'd just do the Orthodox tag on them. Be like, that's a knowledge claim and you can't justify it. So the only way that you can make any justification for any knowledge claim is by assuming the Orthodox faith. It is a living faith, right? It's a whole, it's not some system, right? It's all of it. It's the dogmas, it's the saints, it's the fasting, it's the prayers, it's the history, it's the life, it's your parish. So, congratulations. Now, if you reject that or question it, now you have no justification to make any knowledge claims whatsoever. Even the fact that you even wrote the sentence and asked the question, or any second order. So, that's it. It's pretty easy once you figure this out. So not only is like, oh, congratulations, you just made a claim. If you it's worse than that, an unjustified claim. If you ask that question or believe it, now you can't make justify any claims whatsoever. It's a really powerful argument. Reading your questions. So says I made a kind JW and it made all the difference. I was also helped with food and shelter. Yeah, well, forgive me for saying this. I'm skeptical of. I'm not saying that there aren't any out there, but they're usually trained to love bomb and be nice. Mormons are like that too. Start critiquing their paradigm, and watch like a demon will come out. So they're trying to win you over with kindness, but for the most part, I'm sure there's exceptions. They're not kind people. I think they're demonically influenced. Yeah, exactly, GM. The church was determined not to have truth for 1400 years. Again, notice a new gospel. So Calvin comes along, gives us a new gospel. Yeah, megachurch is the same. Redeemed Redeemer is all over the place. Like, and the other thing too is that it doesn't matter, first of all, what Redeemed Zoomer says about Calvinism. He has no authority. He's a man-child. He doesn't even have any authority within the Presbyterian Church. Number two, it doesn't even matter what the Westminster Confession says. You can say anything that you want. It doesn't make it true. In the Westminster Confession, it says it believes in secondary causality. Like, doesn't mean they actually do. It means they're saying two contradictory things. You see this with Roman Catholicism too. But it says here, it's like, well, congratulations, then you have a contradiction. You're saying two different things. He's trying to reform his Reformed church. What else? Alright, let's go on to... Oh! I need to make some announcements. What is today? February 24th. I want to tell you something. Reminder, the Orthodox Monarchia conference. Hang on. What happened here? Where's my countdown? What's going on here? In the world, there's something on my back end that doesn't show on the back end from my web page, because you can see this is the editor and stuff like that. That leaves stuff out, but if like anybody else goes onto the web page, you can actually see. Like if I pull this up on my phone, for example, it'll have the countdown. There's something on this, I don't get it. I don't know if it's widgets or something like that. So you guys can actually see this. And it says, like if I pull up on my phone, it'll have the countdown. 107 days. Okay? Now, I'm bringing this up because we're getting people, people buying tickets, but the end of March is the end of the deal. Early bird. Also, you want to get to be the first 100 people sign up, because that'll get you the swag bag. But at the end of March, so we have basically just over a month, so let's say a month, to get the discounted tickets. Then it'll go up to full price, $185. If you know any sponsors, particularly it would be nice if there any of you know Orthodox business owners. We would love to invite them, or you, if you're an Orthodox business owner. You don't even have, it doesn't have to be an Orthodox business, or they don't even have to be Orthodox itself, but it's just nice. Let me put it this way. I would think that only Orthodox business owners would want to actually do a sponsorship, but you see the different levels here. We already have two sponsors, obviously Laura Coffee and St. Herman's Studio, and we have our band, and we did add a new workshop instructor, Charlene, from Minnesota. Yeah, you betcha there. Oh, there, welcome there, Charlene. There, and she is an MSW licensed social worker also, and part of the Serbian Orthodox Church, and has her BA. And so all of this, again, we're going to have different, each person, Gil, for example, is a parishioner of ours. He works in addiction counseling, neurofeedback, and different stuff like that. Sarah's probably going to do a workshop on family. Father Turbo also is, works in and has his degree in addiction counseling, crisis response and trauma. Father Andrew, I actually will do a workshop too on. Let me just take off this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step down from being the speaker and let Father Turbo be a speaker. We have less speakers this year because I want more time to do workshops, therapia, and what that looks from an Orthodox. And so basically what we're going to have is various tables set around. So it will, both Friday and Saturday there's slots, and you can choose what table. It'll have like a theme, what you want to like work on kind of one-to-one with the instructor. Mine will actually be cognitive distortion, so hyper religiosity, scrupulosity, as I always say, orthospurgism and stuff like that is cognitive distortions, and how actually dangerous that is, and how we actually heal that and approach that kind of therapy, and have a therapeutic model to avoid the kind of spiritual pitfalls of kind of legalism and hyper religiosity. That will actually be my workshop that I'll be working on, but again, there'll be different tables. We'll probably have a couple workshops in the church itself. Then we have the church hall has built new offices and rooms and stuff, so we'll have some there. And then obviously in the church hall itself, and you can basically go around and choose. You can even spend half the time at one and then choose another to move to. And so this is going to be the best one ever. Remember, His Grace Bishop Maxim is the keynote speaker. It's going to be a lot more interactive, less lectures, less kind of papers, and more kind of events like that. So don't forget to sign up. We do have the discount from our partner hotel, Butte Best Western Plaza Inn, which is 75 plus off a night. And we do have the free camping option as well. And so, although there are no RV, that's dry camping, there are no RV hookups, showers. I think there are restrooms available. It's during the day. There are certain times, but after a certain time in the evening, the building owner will lock up his house. So, anyways, really good. Koliva can only be made for Orthodox departed. Yeah. I mean, it's not like I'm getting bad static in my audio. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Is it better? Okay, with the co-living, no, it's only prescribed, just like in the Pro Community of the Prayers. Those are for Orthodox living and departed. Co-living is for Orthodox departed. Of course, it's not like we just don't do that. It's not like God's going to send you to hell, like on Judgment Day if you do it or something like that. we don't do that. It's not prescribed. It's not allowed. The audio cable's loose. Is it still bad? Oh. Could have been when I switched to something. Alright, what else? Twitter X. What's this? Oh my gosh. This is exactly what we're talking about. Danny Slavich, the Bible. And people from every tongue, tribe, family, nation were in heaven. Christian national. Okay. So this is exactly what we're talking about. So notice the either or. So what's great about Orthodoxy, it's a both and. We're one church, composed of every tribe, tongue, family, and nation. But notice it doesn't say, oh, then, so nobody can have, if that's true, if you're not supposed to have a Christian nation that's distinct from another nation, yet one in the many, then shouldn't you stop talking? So we should have one language. Like, this is so stupid. It's always an either or. This is total demonic collegialism. What does Luigi say? The Bible, you must provide for your own people, or you're worse than an unbeliever and the foreigners in the land of judgment against you. Thank you, Luigi. Isn't that great? Let's see what this guy says here. Oh, he's going to correct Luigi. Pastor Randy Bobs. So notice this, the sojourner. A sojourner is not a criminal, right, who is threatening your land. Okay, so notice how they'll equivocate on that. Oh, hey sweetheart, we have somebody breaking into our house. He's just a sojourner. So we should let him in. Do you not understand that a criminal is not a traveler? These people are totally retarded. Yes. You should not overlook kinsmen. First things first. Your wife, if you're a lady, your husband, right? Your immediately, your family, your parish, your community, okay? Certainly not the enemy coming in trying to devour you, take all your money, kill and rape and stab you. Like, this is insane. Oh, you're a Christian. Like, I want to ask you this. If nationalism is so bad, what's the other alternative? Internationalism. You're either a nationalist, right? Or you're an internationalist. And there's two forms of internationalism. International banking capitalism, and international socialism, communism. Like, so, of those two, I don't think Orthodox Christians would think either one of those is a good. So there's nationalism. And wouldn't you want your nation to be Christian? Oh, so notice the people who are coming up and dirtying the word Christian nationalism or nationalism. Now, again, there's a legitimate critique of a Christian nationalism like the kind of Protestant. The reason why is because they're putting nation over the first and second things. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with being proud of your ethnos, your people, your nation, but that's a fourth, maybe third, fourth, fifth thing. Okay, so the Protestantism again has a view of Christian nationalism, well, like a lot of things, something that might actually be good in its right place, put into a different paradigm, is wrong. But in principle, again, it has to be correct. Because the alternatives are not. I don't know how an Orthodox Christian could support international banking capitalism or international socialism. So what do you have left? You have nationalism. I put in its right place. Seek first the kingdom of God, and then the rest will be added to you. So, what are your thoughts on that? We're having issues with I'm sorry about the... They'll eventually get to you. I'm not in control of the recordings. The film guy that audio guy that we paid is... I don't want to get into the details of it, but he's having some major issues, and I don't have control of it. I don't know what to tell you. You'll eventually get him. I really do apologize for... So I get static when I go on, when I share screen, don't I? So it's something... Yeah, and again, it depends on what we mean by capitalist. If you mean kind of like your local business owner or something like that, but if you mean like international banking, the Federal Reserve, kind of like, yeah, I don't want to put up with that. You know, people talk about like free market or something, like, well, what do you mean by, you know, at a local level or something like that? Private property, kind of, or do you mean kind of a corporatism going up to... Pull up something. I was using this for class. It's gonna make it static though. Do you mean Council of Foreign Relations? Trilateral Commission? Bilderberg? Global banking? Yeah, that seems evil. Oh, but you could have socialism, international socialism. That seems bad too. And obviously it's the same people. It could be a memory issue that when I actually put on share screen, because it's only happening on share screen, that it causes some issues. Okay, let's go to... Gonna end pretty soon, but let's see what else we cover. pull it apart. So here's another, speaking of nations, there's a couple people I'm weird about. So if you look at my X account, my profile, I have various flags like that. And people are like, what is your American flag? Well, let's think through this. First things first, I want you to look at this. What does this mean? The Orthodox cross. Orthodoxy first. Then what I've done is to commemorate various jurisdictions in the United States, Orthodox jurisdictions, by where they come from. So, Russia, Serbia, Romania, Greece. Sorry, Serbia, Russia, Romania, Greece. That's as many as you can get in there. America is not an Orthodox nation. It's not like Serbia or... So when America, the United States does, I'll put one up there. Somebody had asked, well, what about Georgia or... I can't remember the other. It's like, yeah, they're fantastic. I can only put so many in there. Okay, so I'm just and again, those are probably the largest jurisdictions. I could have put the Assyrian flag for Antioch, I guess, but I didn't have, like, one of them would have to go then. But it's really weird that, like, people get, like, so perturbed by that. You only have so many that you could put in there. And you're gonna have to pick. So the United States is not an Orthodox country yet. Okay? You're gonna pick and commemorate Orthodoxy, put Orthodoxy first by putting the flag of various jurisdictions. Okay? That's what I chose. There's no particular order. Also, I have served in the Romanian and the Serbian, so they're definitely going in there. But yeah, it's not like these are my favorite countries. Okay. It was about Orthodoxy first. Okay. Questions. Next, we move to this one's kind of funny. So I made this tweet because people are losing their mind, and it's all about like putting first things first and taking care of your family and if we have enough money that we can afford to live, that your family has enough to live, versus feeding people who've come in illegally, some of which are involved in cartels and stuff. You just don't know. Once you're out of the bounds of legality, you don't know who somebody is. You can bring anybody in, and this is exactly what's happening. Why it's like this is such a weird idea, like, oh my gosh, Trump administration is so evil and anti-Christian, because we want to make sure that first things first, and our families and the people in our community can live and eat and afford. Nobody can afford a home. It's crazy. So you deport these people, and you're an anti-Christian in terms of the anti-Christ mob out there. Tells you everything you want to know. Well, what's hilarious is watching academics, who you all know, the majority of them are liberals, having meltdowns. They're losing their minds. It's amazing. It's truly an amazing thing I'm trying not to take any kind of guilty pleasure in that. But their woke world's crumbling all around them. I'm not saying it's going to go away, but you can be hopeful, right? Hope against hope. Take joy in the small victories. Maybe their reign of terror might soon be over. Some of these people are people that I've worked with before. Look at this guy. The professor I worked with when I first came back from Ireland. I feel especially bad for Ukraine. They didn't elect baby Caligula. Give me a break, dude. Adam. Kidding me? And now they have to navigate two gangsters trying to extort their mineral rights, who are perfectly willing to collude with one another. His mother-in-law is Eleanor Stump, a famous Thomist. They're all Trump derangement. By the way, just to let you know, my commentary on this is not an endorsement of Trump. It's to show, it's a commentary on the woke academia. Respected Irish Catholic Bishop joins against MAGA. By combining powers with this thing, right? Can you imagine? Yeah, real Christians, blah, blah, blah. Shame on Eleanor Stump. I mean, I could go on and on by posting, just watching. Of course, Sister Vasa. And I made this comment on this. Can you imagine really thanking God for a fake and gray CIA puppet actor from the tribe who's literally stealing billions of US tax dollars while we can't even feed our families and get houses, to persecute Orthodox Christians, even Ukrainian Orthodox Christians, and try to get us into a nuclear war with Russia? This is what these people support. They hate you. These people want your family and Christians dead. And praise God for CIA, fake and gray. There's another thing that's upsetting too. I'm tired of the doomer take. This guy says people said the same thing during Reagan's administration. So I got a back and forth with this gentleman, the King's Pool. Like, so what? Now I said I don't think wokeism existed before Reagan. I stand corrected. The more I think, obviously it did. But what do we conclude from that? That nothing. First of all, the Carter-Reagan administration is nothing like, okay, what we've gone through, and the extent of these ideologies becoming totally pervasive in academia. Yes, there's always been a liberal element in academia. It hasn't totally taken over. Merged with corporatism and all the corporations of media, right? And all these different things. You can find elements. But what do you conclude? Oh, so nothing's going to change. It's always going to be... Well, first of all, that's the fallacy of induction. There's nothing that you could actually conclude. You might be able to, if you got into the details, say it is not likely it would change or something, but you're going to need a more sophisticated argument and data than, well, they said the same thing in Hoover's administration and Reagan's, and nothing changed and stuff like that. Well, first of all, we're not Chileanists. We don't think there's ever gonna be a utopia. Things are. There's gonna be an end to the world. There's gonna be an apocalypse. That doesn't mean there's not gonna be small victories. That you shouldn't try to fight and rejoice and be politically active unless you're a monastic or something like that. But it's just, do you see what I mean? I find, I'm sorry, there's certain things that are false and maybe worthy of, there's certain things that are just philosophically boring and don't merit my attention and consideration. I find doomer arguments to be unsophisticated, philosophically boring, and don't merit my time of even thinking about. So congratulations, doomers. And also, make sure that the doomers are never put in positions of management or coaches. Well, guys, we used to think, the team 30 years ago, they had won some games too, and we're hopeful that they'd win more games, but they lost. So we might as well take on that same spirit of doom and be like, we're obviously going to lose. Can you imagine this? Way to bring the morale down of... Second of all, I'd like to ask these people, are you over the age of 30? Because I don't actually want to hear any political commentary. You're too immature. I lived through the Reagan years. I don't think Reagan was a great guy. I don't think Reagan was doing the same. I'm not saying, again, this is not a pro-Trump or something. It's just objectively looking at what's going on. Does that make sense? And I'm making objective. I am making a judgment on. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of woke academia. It's a total totalitarianism. I've been bullied, censored, gaslighted, made to fake that I'm taking crazy pills. Attempted to be brainwashed through their Overton window and manufactured consent. Yeah, I would like to see it crumble. I'm sorry. I take a little bit of joy in seeing my people that I've worked with and people who are the esteemed professors losing their minds and melting down because your satanic woke ideology is in threat and look to be crumbling. Good. I don't care about... And you know what? I was thinking about this. I was reflecting on this, about my life and the sort of kind of characteristics that I've had growing up. I hated bullies. I just... I can take injuries to my pride at certain levels. Obviously, I'm a sinner and I have pride and need to work on. But the thing that most upsets me is not having my pride injured. It's when people pick on the most vulnerable. I've always had this in me. I was a tiny, skinny kid. I wrestled 125 in high school. In grade school, I was even skinnier and smaller. I was, and I saw bullies, physical bullies, and I hated it. I didn't have the strength physically to end that, but I challenged it. I remember being 5th grade, and this guy was from a gang family. Actually, I was in a public school at the time. And I told him, I'm tired of seeing you pick on other people that can't defend themselves. And I don't care if I'm going to get it handed to me. I'm calling you out after school. I'm taking you and I'm going to box your ears in. And I got it handed to me, the guy. But I stood up. And it wasn't pride. it was, you're a bully and you're picking on other people. I hate it. Um, the things that will rile me up the most: you insult or come after my wife. If you insult or come after if you hurt my parishioners and the people in my community, my family, if you pick on the vulnerable, the people who can't fight, and that's why I see with the academia, total totalitarian terrorism, brainwashing, and just concerned with control. And I hate it. I hate that I couldn't speak up, many times that I had to toe the line and watch children get brainwashed by these. And so that makes me quite upset. And yeah, I'd love to see that crumble. Forgive me. Project University of Austin as with anti-woke. No, I don't. That's interesting. Wonder what Trump and Zionism about secret handshakes. I don't buy it. Like, look, I don't think he's a Zionist. I think everybody in politics is going to have to do deals. This last thing that happened over in the Middle East, it didn't look like Israel was happy necessarily with. It's just politics. You ain't going to get anybody out there that's going to get in any position to do anything that comes straight out against Israel and Zionism. Like, does that make them in cahoots? No, it's like, again, this is why Aristotle was like, you shouldn't be involved in politics unless you're like 30, 35 minimum. It's just, everything's too ideological. And you don't understand the kind of nuances of power plays and negotiate the art of the deal and stuff like that, that it's just like, ain't nobody gonna get. You're not at that point where you could challenge Zionism or get ahead, like, Maximus asks a question. I have a question regarding Orthodox position of the soul. Do we take an Aristotelian position of hylomorphism or more modern of substance dualism like that? Certainly not Descartes. Not exactly Aristotelian hylomorphism. It's some position, not quite clear. It's some position between Aristotelian hylomorphism and Platonism. But again, it's not that our view fits into those other elements of those views that kind of elucidate what we believe, but certainly not Cartesian dualism. Oh, cool. That's right. Father Maximus Consus went to Austin. I forgot about that. I should look into that. I really like. In fact, I did most of my last year. My Theology, the Icon paper, was working from Father Maximus Consus's work. He's really great. So I can't say enough good things about. All right, I think that's about it, unless we have any other super chats. But that one individual was saying that it's inherent within the United States that it will always be liberal. Maybe. I mean, those are pretty bold, so I just don't get it. Like, so the system could never be changed because it has to be completely I don't get it. That's where the details matter. Those are too broad sweeping. So, hasty generalizations. The fallacy of just because it happened in the past, it'll happen in the future. like I said, hasty generalizations, broad sweeps. It's just too unsophisticated to have any substantial, like, you'd have to really go into the details. Look, the system in no way could be changed. But even if it couldn't, who cares? What's the conclusion from that? I mean, we know, again, there's never going to be any political solution to our salvation. Putting out your trust in princes. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be politically active in some sense, or be a good citizen and fight good fights and enjoy certain victories and stuff like that. So I just don't even know what's being drawn from that. We know that the world is not going to get better. So I get it. Like, but what's the conclusion from that? You don't try to change things in certain periods of time and enjoy small. I just don't. I don't get it. It's too doomer for me. Well, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, help me out, Dale, because from our perspective, Orthodox, I can't even imagine how anybody could ever be considering Roman Catholicism, given the state of the church. How fake and gray. Like, do you want to become Skittles? Like, I don't know why anybody would want something, right? Do you want a perennialist, like, where they're reading the Quran in the Vatican, and you have Abu Dhabi faith centers with all religions and worshiping pagan deities, and like, that's just the kind of practicality of, do you want a liberal? Remember, the Pope switched on the death penalty, like, so do you want, now he's saying the Order of Moriaris, open borders, the destruction of your nation and people, like. So what I think typically has to happen is what I believe is a very thoroughly modern kind of idea that my colleague and friend Dr. Bruce Seraphim Fultz had said, abstractionism. That, oh yeah, but well, that's just the practical problems, but the system in the Platonic abstract, right, that has nothing to do with any bearing in the world, seems to be so true, and especially for people who have a bit of the tism, right? They love a Platonic Dungeons and Dragons theological system that in their mind that has nothing to do with reality. That, but if I have this and this and this, it's appealing to people. But it's like, what do you want? What do you want to become? Like, what? I would think all of those things would invalidate the church. But again, people, that's what science is. It's this abstract kind of Gnostic system built, right? Political philosophies, all these different things, thoroughly modern, are an abstract system that has nothing to do with reality. And then people, I mean, it's Gnostic if you think about that. But I think it's pretty easy refutation in terms of the system to see why Roman Catholicism is false. So, of course, the Roman Catholics can say, well, the Orthodox have problems too. Of course we do. But there's a difference between problems and systemic problems. Problems that are so problematic that it would refute the system and contradict. That's what you got to look at. What would that be? Now, of course, the first thing I'm going to say is, does the Roman Catholic Church look like anything like the first millennium? No, not at all. So, do you want a modern created church that's changed, that looks nothing like the ancient, and then has Skittles and all, like they have that. That'll make you fake and gray. There's a church you can join that, but it's not the ancient church. Number two, as far as what would it take to refute a system. So it's not just a problem. Of course, Orthodox has problems, but would it be something so problematic that it would be self-contradictory, refuting? Well, dogmatic claims, right, that can't change, that change. Roman Catholicism, Vatican I is dogmatic. It's infallible, right? You have to hold to that. And it gave a certain view, an articulation of the papacy, namely papal supremacy, that existed in the first millennium. Now what? Now you've got the Alexandrian Academy documents reversing that, a dogmatic statement that cannot be reversed, saying, oh, it's not Vatican I papal supremacy, it's what the Orthodox been saying. It's conciliarity. So not only have they have to admit that they were wrong, they fundamentally contradicted themselves. Dogma can't change, and it changes. Saints that were condemned as heretics, saints in the Orthodox Church, are now allowed to be venerated as saints. That's a change in dogma. On faith and morals, about the death penalty, it changes. All of these are systemic issues that you don't even know. So what's going to happen is the Roman Catholic's going to try to get you lost in the historical details. Oh, it's so complicated. You need to ignore that. It's exactly what demons do. Well, look, isn't it? How do we know? Right? They're getting you bogged down in the details. But it's really simple. Dogma can't change. So if it changes in Roman Catholicism, their claim that dogma doesn't change is false and self-refuting of a system. So you don't even need to worry. It's pretty easy. And then you just have the practical issue. Like, do you really want to become part of an institution that looks like that? Maximus asks, the reason I ask the soul that if I'm reading Aristotle correctly, the universality of essence could cease to exist absent of conceptual instantiation. There is no universality of essences, and that's the problem. You create one in Aristotle's theory that it would exist in the mind. So essences are real, so that if you die, the universal still lives on. But there's no prior existing universals until you create one. That's an issue. So what that means, and there's no kind of universal that embraces all the universals. So every universal would kind of be a particular mind's universal. What the problem is that if the particulars are not connected and subsumed under an actual ontological universal, all the particulars, then when Christ becomes a particular human essence, or takes on a particular human essence, he wouldn't take on universal humanity. Second problem with Aristotelian hylomorphism is you can't have essences inside of essences, things inside of things, which also seems to be kind of problematic. But Plato has a different way that obviously forms or essences can exist inside of forms. So that's why. But then there's problems with Plato's theory. That's why I'm saying, like, neither one of them are perfect. There's aspects that are true and reveal something about. Working on an Orthodox music Bible. What's a music Bible? Would love to share with you, but your direct message on Etch is not turned on. Yeah, right. Patristic Faith. Info at Patristic Faith. Thank you. Yeah, so really interesting. I mean, it's so hard for me to get out of my own head and be like, what must it look like to a Protestant, why they would think Roman Catholicism would be an option. I can't get it. Like, it's just too far out there for me. It's the same thing that's like when I'm working with these papers with Tag. Like, it's so easy. I don't understand how the atheist finds it so confusing, or can't actually see it. It's just like once you see it, once you see the answer, it's just like, how could you? You can't unsee it. Do you know what I mean? And so it's really hard for me to see like what the psychology of a Protestant, like why they would ever think Roman Catholicism, there was a choice between Roman Catholicism and Orthodoxy. This gets into the whole kind of left, right brain too. The logical, analytic, quantitative, piecemeal, piece by piece, algorithmic is left brain. A healthy mind is supposed to be right brain dominant, and the left brain is supposed to be subservient. So, the if you spend if you make left brain dominant, you can't actually see the overall picture. Everything's in pieces, right? Which allows you. That's why you're always doubting stuff. Like, and you'll never actually be able to fix anything in the left brain by the left brain alone. It has to be made subservient to the right brain, which is the narrative, the holistic, intuitive. In fact, this is what Father Paul Weissman says. That's where actually the noetic, the nous, the heart would be identified with the right brain. So, what you're actually having is a mental disorder. Like, I'm not being offensive or something like that, but the reason why this isn't making sense to you is that you're not operating properly in terms of the two spheres of. And this is what we know about autism too, is that it's right brain deficient. And we could go through all the problems that autistic people struggle with, and it's because they're left brain dominant, right brain deficient. And a healthy mind is right brain. The ability to go back and forth, but left brain's always made subservient to the right brain, or right brain dominant. Oh, that's an interesting quote by Einstein. Yeah, people get lost in the like, because I started, and I'm always asking these kind of psychological questions, like, what's the issue? Why is this person having the issue? And for example, somebody was asking me, should they watch Ubi and Eric Ybarra's stuff? And I'm like, no, it's too confusing. It's bogged down in historical details, and you're missing the forest for the trees. That's basically what it is. You're missing the theological forest for the theological trees. You're down in and you can't actually see something that's really simple. And notice there's a left-right brain right there. The details is left brain. You're looking and it's like, but I can't actually see the picture because I'm stuck bogged down in the details. And look, anybody can just, what ends up happening is just like you keep citing and quoting different historical facts and historical details, and this person said this and that. Like, it's way too complicated when it doesn't have to be complicated at all. It's like, yeah, well, what would it take for a system to be defeated? That's the question. I don't need to look at every single history. And people think this too, like, well, how do I know which religion? I have to go through all the it's like, no. That's why in the tag I made it in terms of all systems can be subsumed under basic principles of intentionalism or accidentalism. Like, it makes it really easy. Then I'll have to actually go through every single detail and, well, how do I know if somebody comes, like, because it'll always fall under one of the two of those categories. It's the same with Roman Catholicism and Orthodoxy. Is that, well, let's look at what would be self-defeating, what would be systematically is such a problematic that it would defeat the system and falsify it. Because you're just getting lost in the details. Yeah, McGilchrist. The McGilchrist. Master and its emissary. Yep. Yeah, somebody had asked me too, like, well, can I be saved if I don't believe God? And I doubt, but like, well, that's just a psychological issue. You don't come to know people and truly believe um, through your left brain analytic mind, and that you could have doubts about people and stuff like that. Doesn't mean that you don't know the person, because you don't know the person through formulas and propositions, and that you have to. And it's just so silly too. If you really had that sort of standard, I can only believe in something that I've eliminated every possible doubt. Well, nothing follows like fulfills that high a standard. Yet, you don't have any of these psychological issues with all kinds of stuff in life. I mentioned like the gas station next door. It's like, well, unless I guess it's possible that when I went away, it no longer exists there. Or they're not giving real gas, or it's a facade in front for another. And unless I eliminate every possible, and then I won't even know then, because there could be somebody that could raise another objection that I haven't thought about. I can't believe in the gas station. Nobody operates with it. It would be mental illness. Like if somebody actually walked around that way in life. But then when it comes to God, that's the only one that we expect to have that. It's like, well, if I don't answer every possible doubt and then I can't know that God exists. It's like, that's insane. It's mental illness. That's why I say that's not actually an argument. It's actually a psychological, and it would be tied spiritually too. And we know that because if you did it with anything else in life, which you have far less evidence for to believe in than God, you'd be classified as having a mental breakdown and mental illness. So, again, that doesn't mean that, their objections are true or something like that. But, like, even with my tag paper, so supposedly I wrote the best one thus far. Somebody's going to come up with an objection. I don't think it'll hold. Or maybe I might not be able to answer it right away. But I know the argument works, not because I've gone through every possible logical world, and when somebody could raise any possible objection, then I can only know and believe. It's like, no. Intuitively and in my nous, I know it falls into that disjunction. So the only thing that I can get wrong is the way that I present something or word something. So the argument that I give about the argument might be wrong. You might get me on that. But the argument itself, because it's the argument for arguments, could never be wrong. So you have to be able to realize I'm having a mental disorder. It's a psychological problem that if I think I can't believe or know God unless I eliminate every single doubt. Like, it's a mental illness, a mental and spiritual illness, because you don't do it with anything else. I think that's a helpful way of looking at how do we challenge the notion of the laws of laws, or logical self-evident? Challenge the notion of self-evidence itself, that's viciously circular. That one of the problems too, so it begs the question, and then if the laws of logic are self-evident, then why can't I just arbitrarily just assert anything I want to? Well, it's just if you really knew what the words meant, then it would be proof of itself. Furthermore, a law doesn't explain another law. Like, there's nothing within it. Laws don't. There's nothing that. I mean, at best, it's axiomatic and tautological. This is what it is. It doesn't tell you how it relates to other laws. It doesn't explain within the law or the proposition itself how and why it's a justification. So, number two, it doesn't relate to the world in any way. Like, there's nothing in a law of logic that says it corresponds to the world, how you know it, all these different things. So it's just an unjustified assertion that eventually fails. That's like, obviously it's not self-evident. But most fundamentally, you critique the idea of self-evidence as being either arbitrary or viciously circular. The fact that I can't deny logic without using logic doesn't tell me it's a justification either. That's a good reason. Just tells me I'm always using that. And at best, I just look at it and be like, yeah, I can't do that without that. But why is that a justification? In the law itself, does it tell you that why that's a justification? No. The law or the proposition does not explain why the inability to deny it without assuming it is a justification. So it's not self-evident. Great questions. All right, let me just see real quick. And I gotta do some schoolwork. Let me see if there's any other super chats. May God bless you. Thank you for all those that joined in our morning prayers. Streamlabs dashboard. Hope to see you guys in Montana. I'm really thrilled about that, and it's gonna be the best one ever. So start saving up your money. Don't wait to the end, especially if flights get more expensive the longer you wait. Recent events. Just plan ahead. Start putting away some money. Thank you, Philip Rodriguez, again for the $10. Thank you all for the super chats. May God bless you and keep you. And until next time, take care, everybody. And thank you for your prayers.